I'm not welcoming this guest. She is my friend and she is my also mentor. Not a very happy mentor, I'll say, little strict, but always good to be with her. She knows a lot in terms of marketing and all. We are just talking about why she's not into, you know, Twitter now. Not much active in Twitter these days. Early Stader, whatever you guys see from Stader to Kelp, even to some extent Kernel, it is I think she is the mind behind it, and I think she should come and be more in the media presence, talking on Twitter because I'll try my best to extract information from her what she has been up to because I am also meeting her for an entire year. We met last time in Token Dubai, so. Welcome, Archana. Finally, we got you. Finally, I'm talking to you. And how things are going? Take us through the journey because I am only updated till the time you joined SSV.
Yeah.
And everybody knows SSV. But every time I see SSV tweets and all, those are well, but there is no Archana in Twitter basically. But how things are going for you?
I think I'm very much there, but I'm there in the same fashion I always have been, which is more of a lurker and less of a more out there personally. What SSV also has been up to is, I don't know if anyone's noticed, but the network has grown in volume almost 2x. About 6.7 million ETH, not dollars, ETH is staked with SSV currently. And we have more than I want to say 150K validators who are decentralizing the network. So I'm still there, right where I always said I will be, which is championing for Ethereum and overall network decentralization and more security and more robust infrastructure for capital. So yeah, that has what's been up since I last saw you.
Awesome. The last time I kind of checked SSV was time at Stader when they are running Ethereum nodes. They are one of the biggest
Correct.
nodes operators. Also in Eigen, they also run restaking nodes and everything. I don't think how that thing is going at this moment, to be very honest, because things have changed quite a lot in restaking. What's SSV is focusing at this moment? What are the focal points? And in tandem with the question, lots of AI things have come up. They
Right.
have affected hardware in some aspect, not as impactful like in softwares. But how SSV is now, what are the key focal points? Is it still to be a validator network, or there are some new avenues we need to know, and how the AI integrations are kind of shaping up SSV's roadmap?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. Actually, it's a fantastic question. So, SSV still very much is a home for validators, first and foremost. We were the people who kind of put this technology called distributed validator technology on the map, or DVT. Our focus still very much remains DVT. Everything that we do for the network and in turn for the larger ecosystem for Ethereum is keeping DVT at the heart of it. We are still working with all of our operators, with our institutional partners, with our verified operators, building the CSM module for Lido. But what we are also now starting to do is create something meaningful for retail people to meaningfully engage with the blockchain, right? If you take away all the fluff and if we keep only the crux of things, people like you and me who probably work with tech but are not tech first can probably academically understand how validation works. We can probably understand why it's important, why it's securing the network, why it's resilient, etc. But if it comes down to my usage with a network asset like a crypto, what can I do with SSV and why should I really care about what SSV is doing, right? If SSV is working so hard on making infrastructure for Ethereum so secure, how do I as a SSV token holder or I as an Ethereum holder benefit out of it? Why should I really care about all these fluffy conversations that everyone's having? We are starting something which, in my opinion, is the first of a kind. There has not been any model before, at least that I know of, and I'm happy to learn more if such a thing exists, where retail holders or speculators or watchers or even token buyers for that matter get to benefit out of infra wins. Now we have 6.7 million ETH that's being secured by our network. How is an ETH holder or how is an SSV holder benefiting out of it? So we are actually trying to do something which unifies economic interest for validators, for retail folks, and for people who are on the network. SSV fees, network fees so far was denominated in SSV, and validators would put in ETH to kind of run. we are now starting this mechanism where rewards will also be paid out in ETH. SSV holders will be able to stake SSV to get a share of the same ETH fees and ETH rewards and also earn ETH rewards back for it. So there is ETH economic alignment all across the board. We just launched it on testnet, and I think within 5 days of us launching it, uh, 2,000 people signed up for it. More than 1,700 people tried it out. I think willingly, without any kind of push from us, about 150 people ended up creating content. And in 5 days, SSV token holders also increased by like 370 token holders. Like people actually went out there in the market and bought SSV, which in today's market conditions to me is like a big win. I'll take it. And I see it. I can see the merit because once again, like the tech things aside, the dev things aside, like great for everybody, right? Good for Ethereum and good. Why should I, as a retail user, really care, and how do I benefit out of this? And we're now trying to do the first of its kind infra reward layer, which also unifies economic incentive across the board in ETH reward payout. So that's what we've been up to.
I think all these validator networks like SSV, they were, kind of B2B focused from the very beginning.
Yeah.
I think when, we used to work in Stader, the kind of incentives we found that if you don't put a bulk ETH, which is not possible for a average user, the reward share is not that, it's not that rewarding for it.
Correct.
I think now we are seeing this institutional narrative. As you mentioned, although you are not in Twitter, you know what things are already going there. So there is, like a new focus towards institutions, like stable coins, how we can cater to these HNIs, or, how we can sell our products to maybe Warren Buffett or maybe Cathy Wood and all these big people. I think validators and companies like SSV are in a good positioning already because they are always focused towards that. But does this narrative, which kind of popped up recently, change something within you, like, or like, oh fine, we are anyway like that, or is that change in the communications or the product repackaging, how that thing has happened with the institutional narrative being popped up in the crypto space?
I think that's a fantastic question. One quick correction, I'm very much on Twitter. I'm always lurking. In fact, I think I should take a break. I think it's too much now. I'll wake up from my sleep and the first thing I will think about is going to Twitter, not what has happened, has a friend reached out. None of those normal social being things, but a more bot-like behavior of first going into Twitter. But what you just said about narratives, I don't know if this is your question or if this answers it at all, and sorry to be a contrarian. I think that the biggest disservice that maybe protocols or by an extension marketers can do is shape comms around narratives. It's important to remain relevant, but it is super important to remain truthfully relevant. If your product caters to something, well and good, go all out. Make sure everybody who this is relevant to sees the merit in what you're doing. But if it's not, then please don't try to force fit AI. And please don't try to force fit institutions. If your moat is truly built on being a value additive service that is differentiated from other products just by existing, then there is no need for you to add all these additional layers on top. That being said, about institutions have always primarily been someone who we care about and who we cater to, only because the operations for nodes and, like you mentioned, the volume of bulk of ETH that can come in, institutions will, in my opinion, benefit most from it because they happen to have their own reserves, especially like centralized exchanges, a bunch of people who run validators at scale, etc. I think it's a no-brainer for them to still continue to choose the path of distributed, decentralized, and very resilient tech. While institutions are important, I think it's also important for us to talk to operators, to talk to companies who are based for operations and validation, etc. So it's not to say that it's catered to one person or after the boom or not after the boom, but it does remain pertinent that you are able to showcase the value for any cohort in what you do in great ways. And I think for us, identifying the value-based alignment and for identifying the right channels to disseminate that value with has been of key importance. Over time, I think we are still learning. We'll continue to learn and probably get better at it. But we do have significant institutions with us, notably Kraken, and we work with them. A lot of our validators are also with them. But yeah, we haven't done a strategy specifically for them. But at all points of time, we do continue to ensure that they are aligned with the value that we have to offer. I always keep saying that initially, before I joined SSV, I used to think that we are in the business of technology and DVT and tech and validation. But I haven't realized since we've come that we're just in the business of adding and creating value.
I think another question on that front, the way you mentioned that, you still believe in Ethereum, not a believer, active supporter of
Yeah.
Ethereum, you want to contribute there. I think I am also working in, crypto for like 5 years now, and personally my mind have also shifted. I also started from Ethereum, but honestly my mind is not inclined towards Ethereum. I see crypto as a tech. I
Yeah.
don't see anything more than that. I see it's an enabler. It's a new whatever. I still think the max use case is still DeFi. Although people tried building a lot of things, there might be, but it's a like what I want to say is people like me or many other people, they wear ETH maxis not because of the price movement, but how things are. You learn new things. You see the broader perspective of world. You change your orientation. But I think I with eyes and the way you say, like I'm very much into ETH, decentralization, everything. Uh, in my understanding, want to know from you that again, market is kind of the proxy of what happens things behind,
Absolutely.
but that's not my motivation towards it. But I think how we initially, these things of decentralization of maybe, and this Vitalik driven society or ecosystem was very sexy or very something very revolutionary. Great, I think he's a great mind for sure. But when you see about building products, building real apps and ecosystems, it's a barrier. Like in little in my understanding, like the today the talk which Vitalik gives about privacy, cross AI and all. Why Claude and maybe GPTs are so it boom like crazy because it's easy to build, easy to ship. It's making everybody a developer. Like the social media has made everybody a content creator.
Correct.
But Ethereum, I think, has lots of value-driven entity, right? I personally think if you are in the top 1% mind, you will understand what Ethereum actually means. Like, what actually that 1 million plus validators mean, what actually so much of privacy-focused things mean, and etc. Uh, but there is like when you have launched a token or when you have launched a market, when an entire ecosystem depends upon you, you have to take care of them. Otherwise, Solana people will tomorrow come and say, hey, fuck, we are better. Somebody will say, yo, your fees is still more. I launch a whatever chain, zebra chain, giraffe chain, and say, no, I can give you zero blockchain fees. But for retail, the understanding is like that. Quite a few, problems are like there, real problems. I think they try to changing the structure, and things are different maybe now. And the good fact they admitted the mistake that okay, there are some issues. They tried changing the management. I personally like when we started coordinated, my initial goal was to build it for Ethereum, but there was no folks to reach out to whom I'll reach.
Right.
But now I know 10 people from EF at various dimensions when I can talk to. I think that is a significant shift. You become more available to people.
Yeah.
But how you see this transformation? Because from a good perspective, from a bad perspective, like things have changed as I was discussing that if you think some things needs to be changed maybe more, few one or two pointers which you have observed, and some things, us as a Ethereum observers or believers or who have learned many things from Ethereum should be looking forward to, guys, these things are good or things are moving well. Anything you want to share?
It's always such a pleasure to chat with you because it's always such pointed, sharp, observation driven questions that you bring to the table. I would like to take what you said and rephrase it a little bit. I do not see, or the reason why I got into blockchain, and I don't know if you know about it, I was doing my thesis research, which was about border security. I'm an international relations and foreign policy graduate, and I was deep into going into like governance and policies, etc. And I was doing border security, and one of the core tenets of border security is basically how can you monitor the exchange of goods and services, tariffs, taxes, etc. You can, but what about ideas? You know, and it's from the idea and tokenization of ideas that I first found blockchain tech in 2017. And that's why I was like more, I thought I would always be, my interest would be relevant to DAOs and governance and not like the crypto side of things. And well, here we are. So for me, blockchain tech and the tech behind Ethereum or what Ethereum enables in terms of consumer crypto always remains foremost. I speak as me, as Archana, and not a representative of the t-shirt I'm wearing. I don't believe in any gods. I take no gods. Foundations of networks, representative of networks, companies that run networks, teams that run networks is not what I'm looking at when I'm saying I believe in something deeply. I believe in it only because of the potential it can unlock for, once again, people like you and me, but people who probably don't have the privilege or the option of writing a thesis to begin with, which introduces them to blockchain, to be a fantastic content writer in the first place, which introduces them to technical writing and therein enables them to start their entire venture. But people like you and me who still want to feel secure and who still want to feel like their bets are hedged and they're not made vulnerable by traditional systems of banking or fintech, where do they go? And they come to they should come to the blockchain. And we say these really lofty things about the next billion users and like 10 billion in assets, and millions are still being moved every single day on chain. And we keep looking at what blockchain secures only in terms of assets, in terms of fees, in terms of user. I'm sure that is value. I'm sure that is what all of us to begin with considered as value. But I think that's barely the start. In fact, if you ask me, it's the end post of value. The first starting point of value is for $10 billion to move and for 1 billion users to be supported, I need the infra. What is it resting on? It'll collapse and break then? Just because we don't see it as a physical brick and mortar building doesn't mean that we don't need that security on a strong foundation. If you ask me, consumer adoption for crypto is still 10 years away, more than 10 years away. But very banger killer products are built only when the base is first created. And I don't think infra should be 10 years away. Make it now. Build it yesterday, make it today, do it in the next 2 years. Then onboard people. Why is retail interacting with you if you are no better than banking? If you're eventually going to meet them with centralization, with liquidation risks, and look, smart contract risk will always be there, as they should. But we need to move from a process of trust-driven banking, which you and me do today. If our dad has a trusted banker, or we know somebody who's done like mutual friends and their broker calls them, or like a stockbroker or whatever, we need to move from trust-based finance to verification-based finance. And that's what the blockchain enables in the first place. Let 10 million move today. You go and see where it's moved, no? And that is what I'm building for. That is what I care about, and that is what I'm working for. And I believe right now, in terms of ease of entry points, ease of usage, and also, to me at least, things feeling like, okay, I'm not entirely lost, I have a starting point where to begin. I think Ethereum is in a good place. Let's definitely criticize things that are not working. Let's give inputs for what can be made better. But let's scale what's good. Because I think the potential is there. More than the potential is there. The transaction volumes are huge if we go back to normal crypto, whatever. Let's scale it. Let's make it
And
better.
I think with the focus being back to more in L1, which is actively the focus, that's a great thing. And I don't know how L2s will be played eventually, because I personally use Ethereum and Base, because Base it first brought the cheapest transaction. Mainly, I don't care about security when I'm transacting in Base, but my most funds and assets are in Ethereum. Like the main Ethereum, the main old, not clunky anymore.
Yeah.
The Ethereum chain. I think that's where the trust of Ethereum comes in. Last question, last set of question, because before we wrap up, that's about marketing. I think you have been. I think many people like me. I was a very average engineer and developer. Found writing as a way to express. Then ventured into marketing. Now writing is taken care of Claude, so I'm doing podcast. Maybe next year there will be a clone of me who will be interviewing you. And because we are going towards that shift, marketing has changed. When I was working with Trader, I think I always mention you, although I didn't have, little, no, when there is urchin, I'll avoid. But it's like, the kind of work you have done and the kind of ethics, although I always mention that, I haven't worked directly with you, but I have passive learnings. Okay, these are the things which I have, being very picky about certain things, harsh on deadline, putting people at 9:30 p.m. I don't give a shit why it hasn't gone, and etc. etc. So I've seen the work ethic of you, and you're somebody who is coming from a policy background, as you mentioned, which needs deep, layers and layers of research, study, long focused hours. It was not in the days like Claude. Hey, you dump information and get summaries.
It really wasn't.
And it's tough. It's tough to, because I did it for a very short amount of time. He did it for an extensive amount of time, and a much more difficult, field of thing. how you were saying, marketing being changed or evolved in the space of AI. I think we have a talk also today about this thing. So I'm really curious. I want to know about my good marketers and what's their thought about it.
Once again, I think I'm ending up saying very divisive things in your podcast, and I'm going to like start fights and people coming for me. I keep saying this to all the developers in my team. I was also very close to the developers in our previous team and the product people, and same goes. I have a lot of respect for the developers I'm currently working with, some of the smartest people I've ever met. But I keep telling them this, that if it was left to people who build anything, in this case we're talking about tech, tomorrow if you want to talk about a bar of soap, anyone who builds anything believes in it so inherently or has seen it so up close about which color has gone into a bar of soap and which chemical and which lye and which dye has gone into it, they will not be able to sell it. Because they will talk about the building selling point or the proponent that has made it such a thing for them, but not what people need to know. Like when a bar of soap is selling itself, it'll still say Saw Nimbu ki Shakti also if there are like 0 lemons in it.
Yeah.
But if you ask the people who've actually made it, that's not what they'll say. So you need people who can talk about it in ways that other people understand and truly care about it. People who build things can't talk about it for themselves because it's their baby, you're so married to it. You can't like point out the flaws in your own darling. Just as the one thing that makes it the darling is the only thing you want to talk about. To me, I think marketers are going to move everything as we know it. Crypto or blockchain communications is going to solely rest on marketers and growth folks. In the age of AI, I think it's such a stupid, plaintive thing that I'm about to say because it's such common knowledge. But marketers who are competing or battling it out with AI need to like feel less insecure because at the end of the day, it's something that probably can't work. Like the AI is as good as your prompts are. And that has to come from like a human brain unless you're training one AI to prompt another AI and like making a whole thing out of it. But in terms of AI, I think marketers should embrace it. It takes away so much operational overhead from you, and then you can do small things like, hey Satyaki, why is this not going at 9 p.m? And you're more free to make sure that things that are strategically important need to happen. I think marketers always pride themselves, and their leaders or people they report into or the C-suite also always asks them to be more creative, find me the next viral idea. I think marketers' next mode should be more strategic. If you're in a creative industry, become the tactical person. If you're in a tactical industry, become the creative person, but at all times have the flexibility to go between two roles. Creative only things can probably soon be taken care of more evolved agents who can aggregate the full output of humanity and come to you with things that can be done. But your ability to plan, your ability to strategize, your ability to think 5 steps ahead when somebody needs a step ahead and 10 when somebody needs 5 is probably what's going to set you apart. So I think being more number driven, and I think also another pet peeve of how many Excel sheets I'd probably ask you to make and how that got on your nerves. But don't be afraid of tools that are made for accountants. And horrible thing, but every marketer should look up what McKinsey is doing and the Big Five is doing and probably become more process oriented and more strategy oriented. I think that's your moat. That's how you survive when everybody else is, write me 10 tweets, ChatGPT. But yeah.
Awesome. I want to chat with you more, but we have a series of podcasts being lined up. Great to talk with you.
Always.
Lots of great information about SSV, Ethereum, and marketing, AI. Fun, great chatting with you.
Always a really good time. Thank you so much for having me.
Yep.